from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, can the U.S. and China find common ground in trade talks? And what about NAFTA? Can negotiators beat the clock? U.S. Ag eagerly watches, gauging the pace of planning in 2018.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. Our I-80 tour this week takes us to East Central Illinois, where corn is emerging in the field.
Farm Bill talks hit a critical intersection. We'll hear from the key legislative driver, and marijuana growers learn the economic lessons of supply-demand.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Chinese and U.S. leaders are meeting in Washington this week on a deal that could take U.S. farm goods out of the retaliatory crosshairs. China's vice premier arriving in the U.S. for multiple days of trade talks. He'll meet with U.S. trade officials, including Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. Reports are already swirling about a potential trade deal that includes China pulling back on existing tariffs on pork and sorghum and ending its threatened sanctions on other products like soybeans. The deal likely in exchange for the U.S. removing sanctions imposed on Chinese phone company ZTE for selling equipment to Iran.
China has engaged in decades of unfair trade practices, forced technology transfers, and the like. That was part of the discussion that went on when the U.S. delegation or U.S. Group of administration officials went to China, and that's going to be continued later this week.
Trade leaders also pushing hard to wrap up a renegotiated NAFTA this week. President Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking by phone Monday, discussing the possibility of bringing NAFTA talks to a, quote, prompt conclusion. Pressure is mounting as House Speaker Paul Ryan last week set a deadline of May 17th in order to get NAFTA through the current session of Congress. Farmers and ranchers should know more details on the House version of the Farm Bill later today. The House Rules Committee opening 2 days of meetings to decide which amendments will make it to the floor for debate. More than 100 amendments were filed, including multiple that target farm safety net programs. The bill is expected to be debated on the floor Thursday and Friday of this week. House Ag Committee Chair Mike Conaway certain he has the votes if the amendments don't sink the bill, especially one regarding sugar.
It just so happens that sugar has a different structure for its safety net. We could bring sugar back under Title I, but that's billions of dollars of new spending that we don't have. And so the beauty of the elegance of the sugar program as is except when nations cheat and dump sugar in our market at below the cost of production, then there's no cost to the taxpayer.
The I-80 Planting Tour, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
After a couple of weeks of decent weather, farmers have made big progress with spring planting. Checking the progress along the Midwest portion of Interstate 80, we start with the biggest corn producer, Iowa. 65% of the state's corn is planted, a 25-point gain in 1 week, but it's still behind average. 3/4 of Nebraska's corn is in, 30 points better than last week. Those are similar numbers in Indiana. Now, after a slow start in Ohio, better than half of the corn is now in, also a 30-point improvement. Illinois farmers have nearly completed corn planting. As of Monday, 90% is in the ground. That's 20 points ahead of the 5-year average. Not only is most of Illinois' corn crop in, but it's emerging fast too. 63% of the crop is sprouting out of the ground, 22 points above the 5-year average. Now, 24% of soybeans have emerged. Betsy Gibbon takes us to East Central Illinois, where farmers aren't waiting to plant, especially when it comes to beans.
Clinton, the farmers we talked with in East Central Illinois are done planting for the year, but we caught up with them their last day in the field.
It's a hazy sight in East Central Illinois as planters crisscross fields.
Good, now we're starting to run out of soybean seed. This is perfect.
What's a blur is the amount of time these farmers have spent in the fields. 2 weeks, nearly non-stop.
These tractors ought to be home and put to bed by 5, 6 o'clock this evening.
We will finish up this evening, maybe during the night sometime.
What occurred about as quickly as planting for Doug Kirk and Dennis Smith's fields is emergence.
This being our last planting day, everything has full yield potential we're putting in the ground.
And not just for corn.
Yeah, already swelling. You see the moisture? We can find several cases where many different farmers went out and planted soybeans first, and they not only planted them first, but they pushed hardest on soybeans until they wrapped them up and then turned and focused on corn.
Trend or not, big soybean progress is reflective in the USDA Crop Progress Report. 66% of soybean acres have been planted in Illinois, 42 points above the 5-year average. 24% of beans have emerged, 18 points above the average as well.
We can get away with planting the beans earlier, and we see just greater yield potential. We see 80 bushel beans on our farm every year now, in at least a couple of fields or a few. And a lot of that, as we've realized over time, has been the earliest farms that we plant.
But both farmers are not necessarily straying away from king corn. There are opportunities.
We're very fortunate in this neck of the woods. We have some processors, corn mills, and Frito-Lay is a big user of corn in this area.
Kirk grows for the company what he calls a cafe of corn. He finds helpful for the operation.
We sell almost all of our corn for food grade. Frito-Lay is our largest buyer.
Different farmers, different niches, but the same timeline.
When you're young, early 20s, mid 20s, those all-nighters, 2-3 days in a row, it's nothing to do that. I still do it like once a year to know that I can do it.
Well, as you get older, I guess the hustle and bustle and the long hours maybe wear a little bit.
Pushed by the rush of planting while hoping for a long and steady growing season to get these plants to harvest. Reporting in East Central Illinois, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. Kirk says there may be more bean on beans than corn on corn in his area this year. The winter wheat crop continues to move toward harvest. Mike Hoffman has an update in this morning's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. The Garden City Co-op shared this composite photo with us on Twitter. They say it's hard to understand the condition of the wheat crop from the ground. The top picture is an irrigated wheat circle in the Plymouth area. That's about 12 miles south of Garden City. Below is the same field from about 300 feet in the air. From above, you can see how thin and dry the stand is, even in an irrigated field. Only 15% of Kansas wheat is considered good to excellent. Better than half of the state's crop is called poor to very poor. And taking a look at the situation on the wind speed forecast, you can see very little this morning. The winds do pick up in parts of the southwest, especially Nevada, Southern California, and then heading into tomorrow turns a little bit windier through parts of the plains, especially the northern plains early in the day, and then that kind of spreads through parts of the Great Lakes and the west central plains as well. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk soybeans, South America, and price potential this growing season. And later, a growing industry feels the pain of oversupply in Oregon. But can these farmers find new puffs of inspiration from a cousin crop? In agribusiness, plenty of pullback in commodity markets Tuesday. Let's get details now from the floor in CME.
We've had a very mixed trading session throughout the day, with soybeans in particular wanting to move lower, wheat wanting to move lower, while corn staying fairly strong and actually trying to push higher on the day. We had some news today. We had NOPA crush come out for soybeans. It was a record crush for the month, a very strong crush number, which is positive for soybean demand, but it might mean we're making too much meal for the meal demand that we have right now. And if that puts pressure on meal, soybeans, I think, will follow. So do watch out for that. That is a bit of a concern of ours. Pressure in the cattle is coming from the idea that cash is going to soften. We've probably seen our high cash prices, at least for now, and we are trying to push lower to come down, leading those cash prices lower. Once again, this is Ted Seifert of Zaner Ag Hedge coming to you from the CME floor.
Soybean planting is rolling across the country. If the acres go in, what does it mean for prices? Well, Tyne Morgan joins us now from the Agribusiness Desk. She has more.
Here now with Naomi Bloom of Stewart Peterson. Naomi, let's get into the soybean market a little bit. You know, we continue to see updated projections from South America. Is the crop better than we expected, worse than we expected? Kind of where do we sit today?
The Brazil crop is as big as what we thought it would be, and so that wasn't really a surprise. We knew that all winter long, but the Argentina crop is definitely smaller than it was a year ago, and it's about as small as what the trade has been anticipating it to be. So not a lot of fresh news there, but because that Argentina crop was so smaller this year, that's what's really kept our marketplace supported in spite of all of this export drama, in spite of all of the trade talk. That smaller supply coming from Argentina is keeping the uptrend intact on the beans.
And we know this time of year some of the key buyers go to South America for exports. Is there enough there to meet some of that demand, or do you think we'll see more exporters come to the U.S.?
I would say for right now, Brazil has enough to supply what's needed out there. But you hit the nail on the head. This is the time of year when normally we lose a big chunk of our market share because it's seasonally the time of year when it would happen. Why not? When Brazil is harvesting everything right now, so they have supplies to send out to the world. Something though to be mindful about the Brazil marketplace is that the real currency is still very low, and so those producers are making decent money on soybeans, and so there might be incentive for them to plant even more beans next year. But we have to get through our summer first. The trend is still up for beans. We're well supported for prices. The USDA is using trendline yields of about 48.5, which is a little bit less than last year's production. So here we sit and wait until summer weather.
You know, this week a lot of reports, and last week a lot of reports hit that China had stopped buying U.S. beans, and you know some of our major exporters had said China just wasn't taking beans while we work out some of these trade issues. More so than normal? I mean, we typically see China back away from our purchases right now.
From fresh purchases, the fear and the oh my goodness button would be as if they cancel any of the purchases that they've made. So if we see any cancellations, then that starts to shift our supply and demand numbers. But as long as everybody gets along and they're not doing any cancellations, then we should have some smooth sailing.
Really quickly, for U.S. standpoint, what's a tipping point for yield?
I would say if the marketplace comes in below 46, that's when you start to see the market price work higher, because that would cut into the ending stocks.
All right, Naomi Bloom with Stuart Peterson, thanks so much for joining us. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll have more here on Ag Day.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779 or visit stuartpeterson.com. Ag Day, brought to you by new Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans. Achieve personal best yields.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman looking at the root zone moisture map. And Mike, I don't know if it's cause for concern just yet. I mean, we're still not in the heart of summer.
Yeah, but Missouri, central Mississippi Valley, you can kind of see those dry pockets there just seem to keep missing the heaviest parts of the rain. These areas have had some showers and thunderstorms over the past couple of weeks, but it just keeps getting drier and drier, so obviously not enough widespread rains. We've still had some heavy rains, though, over parts of the Tennessee, Ohio Valley, eastern and southern Great Lakes, back into parts of Nebraska, as you can see those wet areas there. Now, as far as the rest of this week, we're going to continue to see this system laden with tropical moisture, basically, in the northeastern Gulf. That's going to come up into the Tennessee Valley, so most of the southeast is going to have a fair amount of rain over the next 2 to 3 additional days here. You've already seen a fair amount. You can see as we head through this afternoon, we'll also see some areas of showers and thunderstorms close to the stationary front from Arkansas to the mid-Atlantic. High pressure then dominating most of the northern plains, most of the Great Lakes. Next system coming in out west will produce some rain showers, mainly rain showers in the northern and central portions of the Rockies, although not really into Utah or anything like that. We're talking more back into central and northern California getting a few showers. As we head through the afternoon hours tomorrow, this area of low pressure then links up with the stationary front. That will probably cause it to kind of turn to the east a little bit as we head toward the weekend, excuse me, with some showers and thunderstorms in those areas as well. So the moisture continues there, and a little bit of moisture in the northern plains with that next system. There's the past 24 hours, adding in the next 36 hours. You can see parts of Florida, parts of the southeast end up with 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. So lots of rain out of that system there because it just has a whole bunch of tropical moisture. High temperatures today in the 80s through most of the plains. Pleasant, Great Lakes in the northeast. There's a few 50s showing up in northern Maine. It'll be kind of on the cool side in the Pacific Northwest as well. Low temperatures tonight, though, you can see lots of 50s and 60s nationwide. Only the far southeast and southern Texas seeing lows in the 70s, and more of the same tomorrow. In fact, the 80s start creeping up toward the southwestern Great Lakes once again for high temperatures, and we're seeing some 90s showing up in many parts of central Texas. There's the jet stream. You can see nothing really strong out there. We have a little bit of a cutoff in the west and a little bit of a ridge in the east. A little bit of a trough tries to, everything's kind of a little bit, you notice. A trough moves into the northeast for the middle of next week, and a little cutoff there in the southwest. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to El Paso, Texas today. Very hot with lots of sunshine, high of 98. Rhinelander, Wisconsin, mostly sunny and very warm, high of 84. And finally, Charlotte, North Carolina, showers and a thunderstorm at times, high 81.
An organic checkoff program is shutting down. We'll tell you why. That's coming up on the Packer TV. And later, pot farms are booming, but prices are going bust. See where these marijuana growers are turning when we come back. And news from our partners over at the Packer. The Ag Department putting plans for a national checkoff for organic products on the back burner. USDA is citing the lack of interest from growers as a reason they're ending the rulemaking process to create the checkoff program. Now, like other checkoffs, producers would have been assessed a fee to promote the industry. The Organic Trade Association, which backed the checkoff plan, thinks USDA's reading of uncertain support is simply wrong. OTA says their members supported the checkoff 2-1. The Packer says the setback doesn't preclude other proposals on the checkoff program. Now, some mixed up weather patterns may take a bite out of the California cherry crop this year, which is now getting underway. The State Farm Bureau says spring-like weather during winter, followed by wintry weather in the spring, conspired to reduce this year's cherry crop in California. Pickers have started in the southern San Joaquin Valley. Farmers reporting less fruit on their trees. Freezing temperatures at bloom appear to have had the biggest impact. Now, though yields are down, fruit quality is described as good. All right, when we come back, pot farmers in Oregon learn about supply and demand and where to cash in.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
We've witnessed the birth of a new cash crop in recent years. Marijuana, now legal in several states, has helped new farms to sprout and grow. But in Oregon, this new industry is learning about the economics of supply and demand. As Gillian Flackus reports, future harvest may focus more on the byproducts and co-products of hemp rather than the high of marijuana.
This sputtering orange goo is turning out to be liquid gold for the cannabis industry in Oregon. This is the first step to harvesting cannabidiol, or CBD oil.
Where was that plant with all the pollen on it? Maybe it's right here.
An in-demand extract of the hemp plant.
There we go.
A cousin of marijuana that can sell for more than $10,000 per kilogram.
You name it, somebody's putting CBD into it.
Open his jaw a little bit.
CBD oil is popping up in everything from dog treats to chocolate bars to lotions. Patrons at this bar in Los Angeles can order drinks with CBD. A surplus of marijuana in Oregon has driven pot prices to record lows. And now, many one-time marijuana growers are pivoting to hemp for the money that can be made in hemp-derived CBD, which doesn't come with a high. Seth Crawford breeds hemp plants that have a strong concentration of CBD and sells the seeds to farmers for as much as $1 each. He says the demand is staggering.
Being non-psychoactive and yet still providing palliative care makes it a very interesting substance, and people are much more willing to try it.
Proponents say CBD can help with everything from anxiety to chronic pain. The FDA is expected to approve the first drug derived from CBD for treatment of epilepsy next month. But other claims have not been substantiated, and experts caution that little is known about its effect on humans.
Believe it or not, cannabidiol is still a Schedule I substance, just like cannabis. So it's very difficult to study cannabidiol in a university setting, under controlled conditions, given that it is a Schedule I substance.
But that isn't stopping Oregon's pot pioneers from going all in on hemp. Licenses to grow hemp have increased more than 20-fold since 2015.
Come on in.
Lauren Cruzy decided to open a CBD-only shop next door to his marijuana store after sales dropped. And he will grow 17 acres of hemp this summer, too.
For being part of the system that we came from, we were growing 140 to 150 plants a year. And it was exciting, you know, it was a great time to be a part of it. But at this point, it's sort of, we got to look at this new piece, and we really believe that this is it.
A complex cannabis landscape driving interest in hemp ever higher. Gillian Flackis, Associated Press, Oregon.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spent part of your day with us. For Mike Hoffman and all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.